You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Hey there, hi there, hello there. Welcome into the latest episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. Once more, it is only two legs of the usual tripod of the Show Before the Show. Benjamin Hill in New York City. My name is Tyler Mon in Denver, Colorado. Somewhere in the the Grapefruit League wilds of Florida, Sam Dykstra wanders, a man on a prospect reporting mission. But just too busy and too cool for us, which, you know, we're used to, obviously. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, Tyler, you and I had a kind of impromptu miniature therapy session before we started talking. So
we did. It was good.
So yeah, so much that we could talk about. We'll share it for the subscription only content.
Yeah,
it's been up and down couple weeks for sure, and I'm looking forward to getting my season plans totally taken care of, having some larger conversations about how the season's going to go, that kind of thing. I think once we clear out the uncertainty, I'll be in a better place. And yeah, my son was sick, and it just, you start to feeling, nothing horrible. And I'm not asking anyone to feel sorry for me, but I think I just want to feel happier, more light on my feet, more buoyant, as it were.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen soon. I hope so.
Hear you.
That's going to happen.
I feel like the end of winter is always like that last kick before things start. And we were talking about like the weather's getting really nice where I live. I don't know how it is where you are. How is it in New York?
It's getting better. Yeah. Okay. It's starting to feel like spring. I mean, it's still chilly, but it feels like spring, and the days are getting lighter. You know, it's like 7:00 and
that's nice.
And it's not dark. You know, I had to pick up my car at Pep Boys yesterday, and I was driving home in the waning sunlight, and I just felt good.
Yeah.
Felt good driving home from Pep Boys last night.
That stuff does help. Like the sun shining helps. It's been like upper 60s, low 70s here this week. It's been amazing. So I'm feeling good about that. And the only thing we're not feeling good about as we come into this week's episode is no Sam Dykstra. But that gives us an opportunity to talk about Sam Dykstra. You too can send us your urban myths and legends about Sam Dykstra or anything else that you have and know and love and want to know about the Show Before the Show or minor league baseball or anything else. We got some very cool stuff in the works that we teased at the end of last week's episode that we're still not going to tell you about, but we have cool stuff in the works. And we also are delighted to have you along with us on this week's episode. How much do you hear from Sam when he's gone, Ben? It's, Sam and I text fairly regularly, but when he's like full on, when Josh Jackson and I used to go cover the Cactus League, I remember like you wake up at 6 something, 7 something, you're at the backfields, you're doing stuff all day, you're writing until like 11 o'clock at night, and then you do it again. So I would think Sam is probably difficult to nail down. Do you all in the office, is there like a Sam feed? Can you check in on him like a pet cam?
Not really. I mean, there really should be, because it's a little unclear where he is and what he's doing. We know he's working hard down there in Florida, but it's hard to say. Then we just see him, glance to the TV screens in the office showing MLB Network, and like there he is wearing an MLB Network polo because, too good for us. Like he's a network man now. He's one of those.
We need a Sam cam. It just writes itself. We need to have something where we can check in on Sam at all times, like a Furbo, but for the sprightly youngest member of the Show Before the Show podcast. Well, Sam, wherever you are, we love you and miss you. I know yesterday I think he was at Twins camp. He was at Tigers camp the day before. So continuing to make his way through the camps of the Grapefruit League. And we continue to make our way through the final weeks of the minor league baseball offseason as we are just outside of 2 weeks away from opening day. We got a lot coming up for you on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We're going to hear from the newest voice of the Triple-A Tacoma Rainiers, Rylee Pay, who we talked to last week. Such a fun interview and a great conversation coming your way here in a little bit. And we will hear from Sam as well. And of course, We're going to dive into all the latest and greatest news items with Benjamin Hill himself. And, this time of year, it's the final few weeks of teams announcing alternate identities, promo schedules, all the rest. And we keep just getting swaths of alternate identities that are coming out. And we're going to kick things off with, should we go food route or should we go animal route? What are we going with first?
Let's do the food because I think that's the probably the biggest one of the week is the
So
food.
the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, who we know are gold for alternate identities in recent years, have come out with a new one, and they will be the spicy meatballs. Not just the spicy meatballs, the Southern tier spicy meatballs. They will play as the spicy meatballs for select games this August. Ben, I don't know all of the details with this, specifically the name Southern Tier, which of course I would assume Binghamton is part of. Give us the lowdown on this one. The logo looks like one of the guys who rows the gondolas in Venice, but it's a meatball with a mustache, and his body appears to be made out of pasta. He's wearing a gondolier's hat and striped shirt. But obviously, this is to honor Italian American heritage in New York State. Give us the breakdown of the spicy meatballs.
Yeah, well, it's Southern Tier spicy meatballs, and we had Eddie Saunders from the Binghamton Rumble Ponies on just a month or two back to talk about bathtub donkeys, and I remember asking him that, like, you guys refer to yourselves as Southern Tier sometimes, and all due respect, Eddie, I don't think he had the most thorough or best answer, but he was just kind of like, yeah, it's the larger Binghamton region, is referred to as the Southern Tier region. So geographically, I'm not exactly sure what makes it the Southern Tier. We should really look into that, but that is a regional name for the central New York area of which Binghamton is a part. It's also, has been known, and especially in the past, but even now as like the Triple Cities region, because it's Binghamton, Johnson City, and Endicott are the three kind of connected cities in that area that make up the Triple Cities, which would explain why Binghamton's minor league team, prior to the arrival of the Binghamton Mets, who became the Rumble Ponies, but in a different era of Binghamton minor league baseball history, their team was named the Triplets, which was a reference to the Triple Cities region. And that region is also known as the Southern Tier region. And the Binghamton Rumble Ponies are playing, yes, as the Southern Tier spicy meatballs. I don't just like to read press releases. I like to, gather my own information and that sort of thing. But sometimes a press release is just worth quoting, such as this. The primary logo features a meatball portrayed as an Italian gondolier on a bed of pasta making its way through a river of sauce with a baseball bat fork. The secondary logo features the baseball bat fork of the meatball bat gondolier with spaghetti noodles wrapped around the utensil. So
there you have it.
There you have it. We're dealing in an audio medium, but I hope that press release quote there really gave you a good feel for what the logo looks like. Now, that's the what. What about the why? That is because Endicott, New York, one of the Triple Cities, a neighbor city to Binghamton, an area known as the north side of Endicott was huge with Italian roots. And again, from the press release, many of the Italian immigrants moving to the region worked at the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company. However, many property owners would not sell land to Italian immigrants, so Endicott Johnson purchased properties for their employees, and along the cobblestone streets of Endicott grew the vibrant community of Little Italy. So that, to a large extent, says why that the Binghamton Rumble Ponies are going to be the spicy meatballs, because of the Italian heritage, much of which can be traced back to Italian immigrants working for the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company. And to go on a tangent from there, George Johnson, namesake of Johnson City, another Triple City, or part of the Triple City region, he was a philanthropist, and from what I could tell, like a really good boss to have, in the standards of early 20th century, labor relations. He bestowed the Binghamton region with 6 carousels, and the Rumble Ponies are the Rumble Ponies because that's a slang term for a carousel. So the Endicott Johnson Company looms large in the Southern Tier / Triple City / Binghamton region. I think a lot of people who live there even today, have roots from people who went to work for the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company, which at one time was the largest manufacturer of footwear in the United States. And in World War II, they, made massive amount of shoes for the troops, and so obviously played a huge role. Shout out to President Johnson of the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company for those carousels. His legacy lives on today, not just in the carousels still being operational, but in the name of the city's minor league baseball team. And it got me thinking that the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, doing all these alternate identities, have not done like a shoe-related alternate identity. You'd think that'd be a shoe-in, so to speak, when this shoe company looms so large in the city's history. But to find a shoe-related alternate identity, you do not need to leave the state of New York or the Met system.
I was
Because
going
one
to,
of my
yeah.
favorites of all time go up one level and not very far away to Syracuse, where in 2018, the team now known as the Mets, they were the Chiefs then, played as the devices to salute the Brannick device, the shoe measuring device that even if you don't know the name, you know what it is. Think about being in a shoe store, that metal device that you put your foot on to see what your shoe size is. That's the Brannick device, invented in Syracuse by one something something Brannick. And
Mr. or Miss Brannick.
yeah, and here you go. So I feel like, hey, Binghamton, if you're listening to this, you're doing a great job on the alternate identities, but you already let Syracuse beat you to the shoe-related alternate identity game, despite being in the region of the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company and their legacy. So let's see some shoes. That's my plea to the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Let's see the shoes.
Dr. Charles Brannick, by the way.
Dr. Charles Brannick.
1927, he invented the Brannick device, which I am learning courtesy of a story from June 4th, 2018 by Benjamin Hill. So that's what's going on in Binghamton. Let's take a trip, same level, but we're going to go to the Texas League. The Arkansas Travelers are doing something that is not only dog related, but is in the family dog related for their team. And that makes me very happy. Please tell us about the Arkansas Dizzies.
Yeah, the Arkansas Dizzies. We were talking about the Arkansas Travelers not too long ago with their Little Rock 9 alternate identity, honoring the 9 students who integrated Little Rock Central High School some 67 years ago. And this one is more, less social and historical import to this one, but another great alternate identity for the Arkansas Travelers. Let's start with this. Greg Johnston, who's their vice president of stadium operations, does a lot of work within the facility at Dickey Stevens Park, Ray Winderfield before that. He's been with the organization for 50 years. This is his 50th year. And at the ballpark for the last 8 years or so, he has always had his faithful canine companion, Dizzy. So the Arkansas Dizzies is an homage to Greg Johnston in his 50th year and his dog who is always with him at the ballpark. And the Dizzy depicted is the same color as Dizzy in real life, cream colored. But it's a sharp looking logo, and I like the story behind it. And I don't want to say anything controversial because, bat dogs, ballpark dogs, they're all great. But I do think there's something to be said for the ballpark dogs who are literally at the ballpark all the time. There's a lot of bat dogs that are rented essentially, or
kind of mercenaries. They're mercenaries.
Dogs. Yeah,
they show up,
dogs.
Shortly before game time, they perform and they're out.
Exactly. And all due respect to them, they still bring a lot of joy to the fans. They still become a big part of the game day experience. I'm not knocking it. But I think there's just something more when it's a dog that literally lives at the ballpark, who's with his owner every day, who's at the ballpark not just during games, but in the off season all day long. And Dizzy has become a huge celebrity in his own right at Dickey Stevens Park, and really cool identity. Designed by Eric Robin Isaac, who did the same, who also did the Little Rock 9 alternate identity, and they're Little Rock based. So once again, the Travelers going with a local designer, and they're going to play as the Dizzies, I believe, if I check my own reporting here, for the entirety of a homestand in June 10th to the 15th. They will be donning uniforms inspired by Dizzy's English cream fur. So stay on the lookout for that one. Dizzy is
I'm
depicted with a ball in his mouth, and yes, he is cream colored.
I'm in favor of any and all dog-related identities across all sports, and that is a very cool one to honor a specific and special dog for the Arkansas Travelers. Now we're going to head up a level and we're going to head west, and we're going to go to the Pacific Coast League and the Albuquerque Isotopes, who, one of the crown jewel franchises in all of minor league baseball. They've come out with a really cool new alternate. Can't really call it an alternate identity. It's really just an alternate look. But they are calling it the City Roots series. And obviously, we're all familiar with things like the City Connect uniforms across Major League Baseball nowadays. But this one will pay tribute to the nickname of the city of Albuquerque, the Duke City. Of course, the Albuquerque Triple-A franchise used to be known as the Dukes. But this is really cool. This is like an Albuquerque specific Albuquerque identity.
Yeah, obviously that, some alternate identities or some just, primary identities, are designed in part to capture a national fan base and get people to be like, oh, I can't believe it. I need to get one. I'm sure that there's other people out there all around the country who will be interested in these City Roots uniforms that the Isotopes are wearing. But yeah, this is very local, proudly local. Yeah, the jerseys say Duke City. Tyler, as you mentioned, um, they used to be the Dukes before they were the Isotopes. That was technically two different franchises. The Dukes left and the Isotopes came in. Their name, the Duke City nickname, and the fact that the team used to be called the Dukes back in the day was because the city of Albuquerque is named after the Duke of Albuquerque, the 10th Duke of Albuquerque. And I forget his name specifically, but there was a lot of Dukes of Albuquerque, and I do not know Albuquerque history well enough to tell you exactly why the city was named after the 10th Duke of Albuquerque, but that is where the name Albuquerque comes from, the Duke of Albuquerque, and that is there where obviously the Duke City nickname comes from as well. The hats have a 505 kind of running diagonally. Um, the 505 is depicted diagonally. Within the zero, there is a state outline of the state of New Mexico, and it features the Zia sun symbol. That's ZIA. The Zia is a sacred symbol of the indigenous Zia Pueblo and is closely associated with the state of New Mexico due to its feature on the state flag. So those are just some of the things that this
Top five
logo
state
set
flag,
uniform
by the
set.
way. Top five state flag in
You're a
America.
big,
New
I know
Mexico.
you're not. I know you're
Love the New
not big
Mexico fan.
into. You like it more than the Colorado state flag?
Oh no, I love the Colorado state flag. New Mexico is a close rival to the Colorado state flag in just being slapped on anything and everything that exists in the state of New Mexico, which is the thing that I hate that people do with the Colorado state flag. But yeah, those two, California, Texas, as much as I hate to admit it, my wife being a Texan, there's some really good. Those are maybe those in like Alaska. That might be my top five. Anyway, that'll be a different episode of the show before the show. But that is a very cool identity for Albuquerque. And we're going to stay at the AAA level. And our final alt identity just came out today. And it is from St. Paul, where the Saints have gone with a decidedly unsaintly alternate identity that involves both a nickname for their community that I did not know of and sort of a history that I did not know of. Ben?
Yeah, the ghostly gangsters, the Crooks Haven ghostly gangsters. This is like
It's a
black
mouthful.
uniforms. It's a mouthful. Black uniforms, kind of like red pinstripes, or kind of almost look like suspenders in red
Yeah.
running down the chest. A logo which they helpfully provided kind of a legend for it. It has a lot going on. Um, the shape of home plate. The logo is roughly in the shape of home plate, signifying that St. Paul was a safe haven for gangsters. And that is pretty much the crux of this identity, that in Prohibition era, gangsters often would hang out in St. Paul. The press release mentions John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, Ma Barker, Alvin Creepy Carpus, guys like that, these kind of famous gangsters of histories. In the late 1920s and early 30s, St. Paul became known as Crook's Haven. The city became a place where gangsters, robbers, and bootleggers from all over the Midwest were able to hide out safely from the FBI and run their operations. So they're paying tribute just blatant corruption and law breaking. I like this also. Many of the gangsters enjoyed their time in St. Paul because they rarely got caught. In exchange for tip-offs about FBI raids and protection, the gangsters checked in with St. Paul police when they were in town, gave a portion of their gains to the police department, and agreed to commit no crimes within the city limits. However, Minneapolis was fair game. So those are the Crooks Haven. What is it? What is it? I've already forgotten.
Ghostly gangsters.
Yeah, the Crooks Haven ghostly gangsters.
Ghostly gangsters.
So a lot going on there. Good rollout too. They announced it in like these caves that gangsters used to hang out in. So it's a good one. And I've written about a lot of alternate identities. We've talked about almost all of them during the season. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see some as I'm on the road. Others I might just write about, once the actual promotion happens. And maybe I'll just stop talking about them because we've spent too much time talking about them. But in this time of year when so much of my time is taken up with planning and logging and thinking, and it just seems like for a couple weeks, all there really is to talk about is alternate identities. I mean, from my perspective.
Yeah,
But
there's been such a flood of them over the last few weeks too. It kind of felt for a long time like we usually got most of them, prior to when tickets went on sale for teams and promo schedules came out and all that. But now we're getting them in some cases into the season. Like we'll have teams announce them during the season, which is kind of fun. It gives us more stuff to talk about.
it does. I mean, yeah, I roll my eyes sometimes. I'm like, oh, another one, but they do give a lot to talk about. And once you talk about them a lot and spend so much time around them as I do like being able to go on tangents and make the connections and put it into a larger context. And I hope everyone listening to this just realizes how skilled I am at doing so. And, just hearing my voice right now, realizing like no one in the world does this better than Ben. I am, sitting at the feet of a master, as it were.
That is true. I do. I find myself with those thoughts when we have these discussions. But before we wrap things up, I have to relay a Slack conversation that I was privy to with you and Sam Dykstra, in which you said that you and I were going to be recording this today from a cozy booth at the Steaming Tender. And then Sam said, I don't like that you know what the Steaming Tender is. So now I need to know the story, which also, I mean, we're here obviously at the Steaming Tender. So I just need to know the backstory behind, the reason why we're here, we'll say.
Yeah, well, the Steaming Tender is, Sam Dykstra is from Palmer, Massachusetts. And the Steaming Tender is perhaps the most popular, best known restaurant in Palmer, to the extent that Sam's high school nickname, I've been told, was the Steaming Tender. You know, that's Sam. He's got an edge and he's got passion, but he's also tender underneath that. So it kind of made sense for him. And I don't think he wanted to get us to get into that aspect of his past. But the Steaming Tender is actually a former train station and restored. So
that's cool.
Ever in Palmer, Massachusetts, go to the Steaming Tender. I did. That was part of some larger research I did into Palmer. This is something that's been bothering me for a long time. I don't know if you picked up on this, Tyler, but Sam for the last 2 years or so is just, to me, not been as friendly as a person as he used to be. And I use that word purposely. Just a little more angry seeming, a little more disconnected seeming. It just seemed like he was grumpy and doesn't laugh as easily, that sort of thing. Have you picked up on that at all?
Oh, yeah. He's just a grumpy Gus all the time.
Yeah. And I just wondered, he's hard to, sometimes I try to kind of poke around the edges of that and be like, hey, man, how you doing? And he just shuts me down. He doesn't want to talk about it. But he just does not seem to be himself over the last couple of years. So I was thinking, when did this really start? And I thought of a particularly peevish time in June of 2023. You weren't there, Tyler, but he snapped at me in the office and ran down the hallway, went into a phone room and slammed the door. And all because I said, Sam, how are you? I just like to see you smile more, or something like that. Maybe I didn't phrase it well, but he got really mad at me. So I was like, I don't know, Sam's so connected to his hometown and maybe something happened. So I started searching around, masslive.com, which covers Palmer, Massachusetts. And I was looking for notable events of early summer of 2023. And Friendly's restaurants, the Friendly's restaurant chain, it has Massachusetts roots, and we know Sam loves Friendly's. It closed. The Palmer Friendly's closed in June of 2023.
Now we know.
And well, I was reading an article about that, and it said that there was a man, local man, at first is how he was identified, who got there on the last day of the Friendly's operation, got in a booth, and refused to leave for the whole day. And that man was identified in the article as Sam Dykstra. He was carried away out of the Friendlies chanting, "No fribbles, no peace." Because a fribble, is a Friendlies milkshake.
Local man S. Dykstra. No, that's too specific. Let's call him Samuel D.
Yeah.
I have I've noticed obviously this dark turn in Sam's persona. Maybe we could convince him we can go back and we can hang out and try to find something that would be as palatable to him in his hometown. Perhaps, I don't know, Rick's Parkside Drive-In, or maybe the Day and Night Diner, or Angel's 1376. All of these different spots that, you and I have been frequenting in our time in Palmer that I
Yeah.
feel like, we can try in some form or fashion to get Sam back on track. Maybe he's feeling like pizza, maybe an Apollo 1 pizza or a Paramount Pizza 3. The one thing that I know about Sam is that if it's a day where we can stop by the Yankee flea market and then head on down, to grab a milkshake, maybe at the Steaming Tender, or
Yeah.
possibly Roadside Pizza and Grinders, we're gonna end the day right, I think is what we've learned about Sam with his hometown.
Yeah. The Friendlies was taken out of his life, and that
Yeah,
removed the friendly from Sam. But we're gonna get the friendliness back into Sam.
you're
It,
darn right we are.
he lost his friendlies, but I know that the friendly spirit still resides somewhere deep inside him, and we are going to find it.
We are. We're gonna find it. On a side note, I really want to visit Sam's hometown now. It looks so great. Every time I've looked it up, I'm like, what a charming town this looks like. But now, doing some actual gandering around, it just looks lovely. I also know that Sam's parents, I think, listen to the podcast on a regular basis, and they must think that we are insane. But also, if there's a chance that any of those businesses want to, throw some gift cards our way, we'll make a trip out to Palmer, Massachusetts, and go eat
Oh,
food.
absolutely. We'll be the steamy tender trio. We can do an episode from Palmer.
I guess that sounds like a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Well, coming up, we are going to hear from Sam Dykstra, but before we do, we are going to head all the way to the West Coast, and we are going to visit the Tacoma Rainiers and Cheney Stadium, where we find the newest broadcasting voice of the Tacoma Rainiers, the Triple-A affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. Rylee Pay joins us from Tacoma, coming up next.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. The real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
Here on the podcast, the show before the show podcast, as if you didn't know. And if you're listening to it, you did know. So this is already a much longer introduction than it needs to be. So let's get right to it. We are here with Rylee Pay, the new voice of the Tacoma Rainiers, the first lead female broadcaster in Triple-A history, joining us live and direct from Tacoma, her new home. Rylee, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to join you guys today.
Excellent. Well, where to start? I mean, we have a lot to get into, but let's start with this new job, because there you are. You are in, I'm going to try to say it right, Cheney Stadium right now in Tacoma, getting settled in there. I saw the press release that the team put out when you were hired. They said there were over 250 applicants for this job, which was open in the wake of Mike Curto retiring. He had been with the team for 26 years, I believe. So you're only the second voice of this century for Tacoma. So big honor, a lot of competition. What was that process for you? You were with the Portland Sea Dogs last year. We'll get into that. But so you're in Portland, you're thinking about your next step. What was the process that led from that to you being in Tacoma right now?
Yeah, I like you said, I was super fortunate to be in Portland for the last couple seasons, learning with Emma Tiedemann, having her as my mentor and broadcast partner for the last couple years, and some conversations with her and our communications staff as well, and Chris Cameron. The goal of that assistant position is that you kind of are ready and prepared to go and take on your own minor league position and a number one spot somewhere. So had some chats with her, and she said, I think you're really ready for this. So how can we kind of help you in the off season and see what opens up? It's in broadcast, there's not a ton of jobs that open up very often. Like you said, Mike was here and was such an established voice in this community for so long. And that's usually how it is with broadcast. So it's very rare that you get lucky enough to see a job open up in the off season. But saw his retirement announcement and was familiar with this team and the great organization that they are, being from the West Coast, having the Aviators in my hometown in Vegas, was familiar with the PCL and had just heard so many great things about this organization. So reached out to them through email, said, would love if you kept me in mind if you have any openings in the near future. And then sure enough, a few weeks later, they posted his job officially. And I applied traditionally like that with everybody else. And it was a process that started in November and had a series of interviews with their comm staff, owners, presidents, everybody, and was super lucky to get this job in January and came out here, got to visit everybody, and now officially in Tacoma to get ready for the season.
Yeah, so what was that like, the moment you heard? I mean, that's got to be a joyous moment, but also I'm sure a lot of anxiety. You've got to move across the country. You've got to start a new life in Tacoma. What has been what have your last couple months been like?
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, this one was really exciting and lucky that it even had an opportunity to open up because being from Las Vegas, it's a quick flight to home. So I absolutely loved my time in the East Coast and being in Portland for so long, but broadcast kind of takes you everywhere. So in the last couple years, I've lived in Wisconsin, Cape Cod, Portland, Maine. So this is a little bit closer to home and a quicker flight, which is exciting. But it's been a whirlwind a little bit, just packing up your life. I've realized I've gotten much better at packing over the last couple moves. I've kind of realized how little I need and what's important, and it definitely gotten down to a better science, especially when you're living out of a suitcase a lot of the year as well. So it's been good, but it's great up here. The people are so nice up in this area, and everybody's been super awesome and welcoming so far.
Yeah, well, I'll do one more before I throw it over to Tyler, who, being a fellow broadcaster, I'm sure maybe has better questions than mine. We'll see. Put him on the spot there. But this is maybe a little vague, but let's go to the beginning. I mean, when did you know that you wanted to follow this career path and be a play-by-play announcer? And, how did you first break in? You mentioned a couple of locations you've been here before, but what was the path that brought you here so far?
Yeah, I usually call it an untraditional one because it definitely was. I grew up dancing, competitively danced and danced through college at UNLV, but baseball was always just something that I absolutely loved. It was a big part of my summers and just my family dynamic. I would watch it with my grandpa, who had a scorebook that he would keep during games, and I just loved the magic of baseball. I say from a really early age, it was always a goal of mine to cross off different stadiums, and I just loved being around the ballpark. So it was super cool that it was an opportunity to have a career in something like this where you get to watch it every day. But I kind of knew that I always wanted to work in sports. Going into college, originally thought maybe a sports agent, took some accounting classes and decided I didn't really want to do that anymore. So did the broadcast turn and started interning really early on after that. I interned with the Northwoods League as an on-field MC and marketing intern, and that was where my interest in broadcast specifically started. I asked to shadow some of our broadcasters at the time, went on some road trips, and from there it all just kind of took off. I told my internship coordinator at UNLV that I had an interest in it, and he just let me kind of run with it. Being an assistant to the UNLV baseball SID, I got to PA, do graphics, website, student radio, everything to get my hand in it. And then going into my senior year, I interned with the Cape Cod Baseball League and was originally brought on as a team reporter, but they asked if I wanted to expand the role. They really envisioned and thought that I should give it a chance to do some play-by-play as well. They saw something in me that I originally didn't even imagine for myself. And so at first, it kind of terrified me a little bit. I always say it was early on in the summer, my broadcast partners just turned to me one day, a summer in Orleans, and they said, like, you take the middle 3 innings and take it away on play-by-play. I was already on there doing commentary and reporting, but just threw me into the play-by-play, and it was trial by fire. I think the challenge of it at first, and just that moment of realizing, I think I can do this so much better. Like, I know that I can do this, and I want to be able to get better every day. So took the challenge and ran with it, and was super fortunate knowing that I wanted to work in baseball. Looked around the job market before I graduated, got the job in Portland, moved up there and finished school online, and was really lucky to learn from Emma Tiedemann and have her as a mentor. She's one of the most talented voices in the game, and she taught me so much just about all the intricacies of broadcast, and also just helped me so much in my career development in minor league baseball.
A friend of the podcast, Emma Tiedemann, who
Yes.
we've loved talking to. So many times we've had Emma on. And for you, Rylee, when you got started working, on a day-to-day basis, and you get to work alongside someone like Emma, how much did Emma's, her work ethic, her dedication to detail, all of the things you learned from her in the booth, just tell us about what that process was like, getting to work around somebody who is, like you said, one of the best voices in the game. There are not many people that are going to be on that level where day to day you get to go in and learn from someone like Emma. What was that like for you in Portland?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't say enough good about her, is always what I say. She's fantastic, just as a mentor, a friend, a person. She's 100% who she is on air and off air. So for me, getting to learn from her, I love the way that she broadcasts, her style. As a broadcaster, she is lighthearted, conversational, and just a really easy listen, I think, for the casual fan, and then also people who are really into all the stats and that more advanced fan as well. So learning from her, she comes from such a great broadcast family, and having her grandpa be the voice of the Rangers and the Cowboys, she knows what she's doing, and she's just so talented at what she does. She would give me feedback during after games. I would just tell her certain innings, and she would be able to just help me see things that I might have not seen myself, and just so collaborative working with her as well. I think she is definitely one of the best teachers, and it was so fun to be able to work with her the last couple of years. She'll be a hard broadcast partner to ever emulate, because she is just the best.
Well, and one of the cool things too is you find your own voice as a broadcaster, but it's always like you're kind of picking up little things from here and there, from your time at UNLV and your time working in the Cape and your time working with Emma. How do you feel like your journey has been in terms of discovering what your personality is like on the air, the things you like to, vamp on in a 12-2 game in the fifth inning where it's, not maybe the most exciting baseball, but you got to find some stuff to talk about. What has that experience been like, developing your own identity on the air?
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest parts about play-by-play specifically, is it's ever changing. Like every single day, you're focusing on something else, and you have that opportunity to focus on something else for 100+ games a season. So it's hard to not change and evolve in some ways. But for me, I think after having learned from Emma and getting to sit next to her and pick emphasis that she has put in just being conversational and being an easy listen for people. Like, you want to be able to sit down, put a game on, and enjoy who you're listening to, and feel like you're kind of listening with a friend, maybe just something that's easy to listen to. Like, you could be doing other stuff around the house or whatnot, and it's just somebody who's easy to listen to in that way. So I think that's important to me, to be able to storytell and bring those things to light, especially being that voice of a team where obviously fans don't have the same access to players. So you want to be able to kind of pull those stories of maybe why they've changed their batting stance, or what they do on their off days, or just kind of bringing that personality element that other people might be curious about.
One of the coolest things I feel like about this opportunity in Tacoma is you're in a great Triple-A
baseball market, not just with how much people there love that team, but the fact that you're 40 minutes or whatever it is away from the parent club. And so it's not as though you're across the country from the fans who are cheering for the prospects who you're going to be promoting. How cool has that been to get into, learning about the Rainiers, one of the richest baseball histories in the PCL, and connecting with people who it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to see this guy today at Tacoma, and then if he gets promoted, I'll go see him in Seattle on, Saturday or whatever it is. Like that's a really cool opportunity.
Yeah, when you look at it on a map too, you're like, wow, this is so cool that it's so close. You're just right down the street from the big league club, which is awesome. And it from several aspects as well. It makes you feel really connected to that club as well. There's already been some Mariners PR people that have reached out. Spoke with Angie Mentique a few weeks ago as well through sports. So it's cool just to realize how close that is. It puts into perspective, obviously, being in Triple-A baseball, like these guys are right there, if not major leaguers already, that are just extremely talented. So it's very, very exciting to be that close and to know that this is like premier talent that you get to watch every day. And then they head down the street, like you said, a couple days later, you can watch them at T-Mobile as well.
Rylee, I mentioned at the top of this email, as noted, or this email, I'm so used to replying to emails. I mentioned at the top of this podcast that the press release for your hire by Tacoma, mentioned you were the first female AAA broadcaster in history. And so with that, and your career thus far, forming an all-female booth with Emma in Portland, that just results in more attention than the average broadcast hire, especially in minor league baseball. Some of it positive attention, some of it negative. But how do you deal with that added pressure and scrutiny on top of just doing the work that any broadcaster needs to do just to get prepared for a new job, which is itself something that's pretty stressful and anxiety-inducing? It seems like a lot to mentally manage and prepare for.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've started to think about more as I've been a part of these firsts. It was absolutely not the reason that I got into this job at all, and something that I started to realize the magnitude of after the fact, having those experiences in Portland even. I was 100% going to just learn from a great broadcaster in Emma, and that was at the forefront of my mind. And then there was a scenario I remember early on at a fan fest where a fan said, "Is this going to be the first?" And she said, "It'll be first in Double-A, yes." And from there, it kind of sunk in, and it's something that's always been in the back of my mind that that there is a little bit of extra pressure and more ears listening, more eyes watching when you're the first and when you're kind of that untraditional voice. So it's something that you're always mindful of. But for me, it was never the reason that I got into this. So I try to not let it be a part of the factors that I'm thinking preseason. I just want to be able to do my job to the best of my ability, whether that's male, female, or anything. I just want to be able to be the best broadcaster that I can be and focus on that more than anything. So it is something that you think about when you're doing all these extra interviews and all of that. But at the forefront of my mind, I'm just trying to be able to focus as well and prioritize what's important, being able to know these guys, put on a quality broadcast, and just do my job well so that that's not the storyline, hopefully, in the next couple of years.
Well, let's just talk about you in that context then, just as a broadcaster. You have any influences, people you really looked up to, / what is your style and what kind of broadcast do you like to be doing, to be in charge of?
Yeah, I think like everybody, I love Vin Scully. He's one of the best. And I listen to him sometimes before the season starts, going to bed. I'll put him on and fall asleep to Vin Scully. So I love his voice. I love how he storytells. I think that's one of the greatest talents. And to be able to do what he did is something that a lot of people just dream of even coming close to. So just being a good storyteller, I think is something important for me. Being lighthearted and also throwing in that humor too, because baseball can be 2.5 hours, 3+. So you want to be entertaining to people at some point, keep them engaged, whether it's a really close game or something that you need to fill a little bit more time. So for me, just that human element of being an easy listen and of course still honing in on stats and what's relevant and all of those things, but also just being a voice that it is pleasant and becomes familiar for people throughout the season.
Rylee, this time of the year, you're only a few weeks away from opening day, which is crazy. What is the day-to-day like for you now getting prepped? Obviously you're, trying to learn. The weird thing at this time of the year is you're not really sure what your opening day roster is going to be like. So you're learning about like 75 guys, not knowing what, 20 plus are actually going to be on the roster. But on a day-to-day basis, what are you doing right now as you get set for opening day here in about 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's also interesting learning a whole new system. It's been all Boston Red Sox for me the last couple of years, and now you're completely having to pivot and learn about the Mariners. And obviously, they're such a storied organization, and you know those big headlines already of their prospect status and being one of the most intriguing farm systems in baseball right now. It makes it equally exciting because, from a standpoint of Triple-A, a lot of those prospects are younger, so they'll be here hopefully at some point this season, knowing that you're going to get to see a lot of those faces is exciting. But as far as the day-to-day goes, it's a lot of prep, finishing our media guide with our director of media relations as well, and just all the back-end housekeeping things that you don't really think about or see during a game day, but making sure that all of those different pieces and elements are all finalized, doing your research, trying to do a deep dive on the internet, see where you can find articles about whoever, and just make those connections with different bloggers, podcasts, just find as much as you can during this time. And then also just super excited once the season starts to be able to get to meet the team. And once you're around them, a lot of those storylines will start to come to, and you're able to develop that.
You are, obviously set to make history in this role, but you've gotten a chance to be part of this family now of the names that we've all come to know over the last several years of women in baseball broadcasting. And you mentioned Emma, obviously, but I know, just looking at some of the tweets about, your MLB Network segment and all of that, Jenny Kavnar responds, Melanie Newman, one of our close friends here on the podcast. Like, how cool is that to be in this group of mutually supporting and encouraging, and like that family is not something that a whole lot of people get to experience in their career in any field. That's got to be a really amazing experience.
Yeah, it's very cool for me too. I grew up watching the Orioles, so I always reference it was a huge deal for me. I was an intern in Wisconsin, turned on the TV and saw Melanie Newman making her MLB debut a few years ago. And now having met her, I got to meet her with Emma this past season when we went up to Boston to watch a game on an off day. Got to meet her when the Orioles were in town, put a face to a name, but just as an overarching theme, she's been so supportive already. She sent me her scorebook template because I saw it on her Instagram a few years ago. I loved the way that her template was set up. So I asked her if I could borrow her template, and she's like, absolutely, I'll make you a book even, which is so nice because those are expensive to make these days. So they've just been so supportive. Even just with this job alone, Julia Morales reached out of the Astros. Jenny Kavnar also got to meet her last year in Boston. And they are just such nice people, genuine people at their forefront that will give you their number and say, if you need anything at all, like just let me know. And that's so cool to be able to see them and what they've already done, but also knowing that they're just awesome, genuine people behind the scenes as well is pretty cool. Like you said, it's a small a group that you realize over time there aren't very many women in these roles. So to just have them as people that you can kind of turn to, look at what they've done and know that they're so successful at what they've done, it is really cool. And to have them as mentors is awesome.
Now, Rylee, the last time I was in Tacoma, I think it was just 2 years ago, I met a ballpark icon, the epic sax gorilla. And I'm just curious if you have run into a gorilla playing the saxophone yet on this new job of yours.
Just like running around the concourse on days in January or February.
I have not yet, and I'm so looking forward to it. I think that's on the top of my opening day list. That and rhubarb, I can't wait to see the game production and everything that goes into it here. Just from videos and pictures, though, it seems like a great time at this ballpark, and our staff just puts on such a great operation. Behind the scenes, they're so meticulous and thinking about all the ways that they can really enhance this ballpark experience. So I'm just excited to see it all come to life. All that I've been hearing about, I'm pumped. It's a great place for sure.
Well, here we are just about 3 weeks from opening day, so we'll be able to hear Rylee call in the Tacoma Rainiers games soon enough. Rylee, I'm sure you have a lot more prep to do and whatever else needs done, setting up a whole new life in Tacoma. So we'll let you get back to that. But thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Meet Natural Cycles, the only FDA-cleared and CE-marked birth control app that's 100% natural, hormone-free, and side effect-free. Here's how it works. The app analyzes daily changes in your body temperature to find your fertile window, so you can plan or prevent pregnancy naturally. Natural Cycles is a clinically proven, non-hormonal birth control option that's 93% effective with typical use and 98% effective with perfect use. No synthetic hormones, just science. And if you're ready to start family planning, switching from preventing to planning a pregnancy is as easy as tapping a button. Plus, the Natural Cycles app makes tracking fertility easy. You can measure your temperature trends using an Oura Ring, Apple Watch, or our Bluetooth thermometer, which is free when you sign up for an annual subscription. Join over 4 million registered users who are taking control of their fertility naturally. Save 15% when you sign up with code RADIO15 at naturalcycles.com. That's Radio15 for 15% off today.
Hi, everybody. It's Sam Dykstra again on my own here in what is now Boynton Beach, Florida. If you want to follow my travels, I am on the Atlantic side after having spent the previous 11 days, I think, if I'm mathing correctly. The past 11 days on the Gulf side of Florida, I have finally made my way to the Atlantic side. I will be here over the weekend and then back in New York on Monday, just in time for St. Patrick's Day for myself. But just wanted to jump in here like normal for spring training. We've gotten used to the rhythm of this thing, right? Just to share some of what I've seen, but also just to kind of piggyback off that segment you just heard. I was disappointed that I couldn't make it for Ben and Tyler's chat with Rylee Pay. As you guys heard, Rylee Pay, the new broadcaster in Tacoma. She'd spent time most recently in Portland, and that's where our paths first crossed. I got to see Rylee, I believe it was last summer. Yeah, it was last summer for the first time. And she was tremendous to work with. I joined her in the booth in Portland for a bit. I was there first to see, I don't want to call it the big three because it was a different big three at the time of Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Kyle Teal. And we've seen how Christian Campbell has essentially replaced Kyle Teal now with the White Sox. But, Portland was the place to be for a long time in the Red Sox system. And to have a voice like Rylee Pay there for the summer alongside good friend of the pod, Emma Tiedemann, was really special. They had a really good thing going on there in Portland. And as many of you will recall, the Red Sox did a game this summer honoring both of them in their own way, but acknowledging what they've done and what they were doing in Maine, bringing them down to Fenway Park. And I have roots still in New England. I have a lot of people close to me still there, and who listen to Red Sox games over the summer. So to see Emma and Rylee in that booth was really, really cool. I know my own mother was excited to see them both. She didn't know them, but she was texting me about it. And now to see Rylee get an opportunity to bring what she brought to Portland, now to Tacoma, to a different coast herself. I think fans of the Rainy Years are going to be very excited by what she'll bring to them, the way she'll bring the sport to them, night in and night out with the Rainiers. So just wanted to acknowledge that. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for that interview. I have no doubt that it was great. And it's just great that, another really solid broadcaster is getting an opportunity in a market that, they love their baseball in the Pacific Northwest. So going from the Northeast to the Northwest, there will not be any changes in terms of overall fan fervor. So just wanted to say that up front. And then obviously, as I always do with these spring training segments, I don't know what Ben and Tyler have said elsewhere on this show. Ben sent me a very threatening text about my hometown and mentioning the Steaming Tender, which is a restaurant in downtown Palmer, Massachusetts, which was very weird for Ben to reference because there's no way he could have known that unless he was specifically looking up things about Palmer. So I don't know what he said in the first segment. I will find out just like the rest of you, I guess, when I listen to this week's episode. Hopefully it's all nice things, but if it's not, I will correct the record when I am back in New York with Ben next week. And Tyler, Ben and I are on the same Zoom call, and everything's right as rain all over again. But, just jumping in here to share some of what I've seen in Florida the past couple days, and also just to preview what's coming up this weekend. I mean, that's mostly what this segment's actually going to be about, because it's spring breakout time. I'm recording this late Thursday night, and I will not be sharing exactly what hour I am recording this. Maybe you can tell by how this segment will go. But I am coming off going to the Red Sox-Rays game, the spring breakout opener. And as of my recording this segment, the only spring breakout game we've had, the Cubs-Dodgers game, was unfortunately rained out in Arizona. So we've only had one game, but I got to say, we are 1 for 1 in exciting spring breakout games. This Red Sox-Rays game was much hyped. If you know anything about prospects, if you follow prospects at all, it was absolutely loaded. We've got the Rays and the Red Sox, the second and third best farm systems in all of baseball, according to MLB Pipeline, respectively. Rays second, Red Sox third. And you think about that big three that I was talking about with the Red Sox before, they were going to be playing in this game, which is saying something, because all three of them are essentially still competing for major league spots. I mean, I know that's not really true of Marcelo Meyer. He hasn't played Triple-A yet, and Roman Anthony's probably going to get crowded out of the outfield. But, Christian Campbell is still in that mix for second base, and he's played a little outfield as well. So there was a feeling maybe the big three won't be there. But kudos to the Red Sox keeping those guys in this game, because the whole point of spring breakout, as I've said in the past, is to be a showcase for the game's next generation. And the Red Sox taking a long-term view here of saying, we know this is our core. We want them together. And boy, did they come through, and I'll get to that in a second. But just to mention the Rays here for a second as well. They were also loaded, starting with Carson Williams, a top 10 overall prospect, starting at shortstop for them. Unfortunately, they had some other top 100 guys drop out. Trey Morgan, Xavier Isaac, Theo Gillen weren't able to play tonight. But Chandler Simpson was in the lineup. He was actually added. He wasn't on an original lineup that we once had, but they added him in to the mix as well. And Chandler Simpson, guy who stole 100-plus bags last year, I think is the fastest man in all of baseball. I know there are some players who might have something to say about that, both in the minor leagues and the major leagues. But, man, Chandler Simpson is absolutely electric. So getting him in this game was huge. And, to spoil the ending, it was 7-5 Rays win over the Red Sox at Port Charlotte. It was at the spring training home of the Tampa Bay Rays. But, man, this game was everything that was promised. Those members of the big three, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, Christian Campbell, all homered. Campbell and Meyer homered back-to-back, and within 2 pitches of each other. It was really something to see that. Campbell drove one out to right center. Meyer pulled one down the line in right, turning around some serious velocity from Trevor Harrison, who is a ranked Rays prospect in his own right. And, you kind of wondered, okay, is Roman Anthony going to kind of come through here at some point? And then he went up against Santiago Suarez, another one of the Rays' top pitching prospects, and the Rays are really good at developing pitching prospects. And there was a chant going through the crowd, overrated. It was one guy trying to start that. But, it's a spring training park. It kind of echoes through a little bit. And I thought, I wouldn't do that. Roman Anthony, number 2 overall prospect in baseball for a reason. The number 1 prospect in baseball, not named Roki Sasaki. I would not poke the bear. And I thought, I bet he's going to do something. I know this is easy for me to say now, but I thought, I bet he's going to do something. But wait for this next pitch. Let's watch one pitch, and then I'm going to get my phone out, and he's going to do something. Nope. He was less patient than that. Literally that pitch that I'm going to wait on this one. Just an absolute bomb to right. I mean, cleared. They have a staff building out in right down there in Port Charlotte, and I think it hit the roof. I lost sight of it. Roman Anthony knew it the second he made contact. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody more confident that they hit a home run the second the bat hit the ball. gave the bat a little twirl. It's all over social media if you haven't seen it yet. There's just amazing videographers who work for Major League Baseball who got the dinger in the moment, who got it in slow-mo. It's an absolutely classically beautiful left-handed swing, but there's some viciousness to it as well. And if you've been following Red Sox camp, or if you haven't been following Red Sox camp, you know there was a stomach bug going around that clubhouse for a little bit. Roman Anthony caught it. Marcelo Meyer caught it. But Roman Anthony lost 10 pounds, he said. And he even said in the post-game scrum, like, if I hadn't missed that time, I would have hit that ball even harder. I don't know if that's possible. The exit velocities that we got on it, I believe, are 111 miles an hour. So, yeah, we know he's capable of like 115, 116. But whew, that is how the barrel finds the ball. It was just incredible stuff from Roman Anthony. So then that means all three members of Boston's Big Three homered in the game, which is, okay, that's great. That's huge. That's a pure spring breakout moment. Well, Carson Williams isn't going to be outdone here. He's, like I said, another top 10 overall prospect. He homers in, I believe, the 8th inning. He hits one out to left center. And you're just like, great, all 4 top 100 prospects in this game of homered. And then throw in Chandler Simpson earlier in the game, again, fastest guy in baseball, laid down a bunt for a hit, and then performed double steal with Homer Bush Jr., another guy who has at least plus speed, if not 80 rate speed. It's insane. So this was just so much fun to watch. Sure, the pitching didn't really come through in this one. There were some interesting arms here and there, but 7-5 Rays win. Score was kind of immaterial, and I actually wrote up this aspect of it. You know, we were all, a lot of reporters were standing on the field, a lot of people involved with MLB, just everybody's kind of hovering around the field as the teams are getting settled in both clubhouses. And then we see Carson Williams walk out of the Rays dugout, and Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer come out of the Red Sox dugout, and they all, go smack hands and smack backs and the whole thing, and dap each other up. And they're obviously know each other from futures games, but in the case of Meyer and Williams, those guys are 2021 draft picks out of California. They've known each other for a very long time. So it's like kind of cool. All right, 3 of the top 12 prospects in baseball going to hang out. And then all of a sudden, more are coming out, and it's Trey Morgan, it's Xavier Isaac, who again are scratched and not playing in the game, but like want to go be part of what's happening here behind home plate. Christian Campbell's coming out, Chandler Simpson's coming out, and Christian Campbell and Chandler Simpson were teammates at Georgia Tech in 2022, so they have a connection. Like, all of these guys are just getting together in a very just natural moment. I asked afterwards, was this something you guys texted about? Like, hey, I'll meet you behind home plate, or let's make sure we hang before the game starts. It's like, no, we just saw each other, and we wanted to make sure that we said hello and like acknowledged, in the case of Campbell and Simpson, how far we've come since college. In the case of Meyer and Williams, how far we've come since our California days. It sounds like Williams and Meyer have a very playful rivalry. Meyer apparently has joked for years that he has more power than Carson Williams. So when Meyer homered first in the game, Carson Williams was like, I got to get something here. And then he ends up doing it. And he was laughing at Meyer as he's rounding the bases. Not in his face, mind you, but just like, hey, I can't believe this actually happened. And so it's just really cool to see them all acknowledge each other, acknowledge their place in the game, because not only are they all top 100 prospects, Chandler Simpson's not a top 100 prospect. We can get into that debate in another day. But again, elite tools. I think he's going to be an impact player for a long time. But to see all those guys come together and then perform the way they did, it was just such a crystallizing moment of what Spring Breakout should be, what it can be, and hopefully what it will continue to be moving forward. This is just the second year of this event. You think about last year's signature moment was Paul Skeens striking out Jackson Holliday in a matchup of 2 number 1 overall picks. And then this year, big-time prospects come through again. It's amazing how this happens. Talking to a lot of people here in Florida and just around the game, people acknowledge like this is a thing. This is now its second year. It's established. If you played in it last year, you know how fun it was. If you haven't played it yet, you know how much fun it can be because you've heard about it now. And guys get up to play in this game. I mean, it's different than the backfields games that they're doing right now, in intra-squads or against other teams in their region in Florida and Arizona. This is a little bit more competitive. So to see these guys come through in that way was just supremely special. It had maybe one of my favorite quotes that I've ever written, certainly in a spring training story. I went up to Carson Williams alongside our colleague Kelsey Hennigan and MLB.com writer Adam Berry and Rays beat writer Mark Topkin. And, we were trying to get some quotes about just how cool this game was and what Carson Williams' reaction to a lot of what happened was. And brought up like, oh, that pregame meeting, what did you guys think? And I'm like, oh, this guy was in it. This guy was in it. This guy was in it. He's like, yeah, and everybody homered. And here's the quote: "Are you kidding me? This is MLB's dream." And it really was. It really came together really well. I can't believe this is the opener. Obviously, you guys are going to be getting this episode on Friday like normal. And there's going to be more games on Friday. So I don't want to preview too much of that because they might not age particularly well. But that being said, I do want to give you guys a heads up on some of the other games that are coming down the pipe. And if go watch these highlights of Rays and Red Sox just to get an idea of like what could be coming. This is the most loaded game that we're going to have, but there's no reason why the bar, I'll put it this way, the bar has been set by this group. So there are going to be other prospects, guys like Jack Caglione, guys like Bubba Chandler on the mound, guys, like maybe a Spencer Jones or George Lombard Jr. just looking at the Yankees here, or Harleen Susana is going to be coming up in an Astros-Nationals game. We know how hard he throws. Guys want to take advantage of this stage however they can. Within reason. Like, I don't think Harleen Susana should be trying to throw 105 and blowing out a shoulder over this. But, Travis Bazzana, number 1 overall pick from last year for the Guardians. That's going to be a loaded matchup against the Mariners on Friday. You can bet he wants part of that spotlight for himself, to show off why he was number 1 overall last year and how quickly he can get to Cleveland and be that next face of the franchise. So just some matchups to watch out for on Saturday and Sunday. We'll go that way. It's Twins and Blue Jays. That game's happening at 1:07 Eastern time on Saturday. At 6:05, it's Yankees Orioles. 8:05 Rangers and Giants. And then 9:05 Angels and Cubs. Cubs are one of the 2 teams between Arizona and Florida that are getting 2 spring breakout games. They had that first one washed out. We'll see if it's going to be made up. I haven't heard anything on that just yet, so check the normal channels to see if that will be made up between the Cubs and the Dodgers. But the Cubs do have another one coming up, so at least the Cubs aren't completely washed out here. Then on Sunday, Tigers and Braves at 4:05 Eastern, Mets Nationals at 5:05 Eastern. I'm going to be at that game. Rockies White Sox 5:05 Eastern in Arizona, and then Reds Brewers 7:40 on Sunday as well. That'll be the final game of Spring Breakout for this year. I believe Jacob Mizorowski is scheduled to start for the Brewers on Sunday. If you've heard me talk about him before, you know that I think he could be a right-handed version of Josh Hader. It's a really, really special fastball. It's a really, really special curveball. It's a slider that's going to be low 90s. It's insane how he works. He just needs to find the zone more regularly, but like he's already supremely tall and then has elite extension, so he's putting that fastball right on top of you. Make sure you find a way to watch Jacob Mizorowski start against the Reds. And that's an NL Central matchup, right? Like this won't be the last time he'll face a lot of really quality Reds hitters. So keep an eye on that one. I'll throw out the Tigers-Braves one as well. Braves not particularly loaded this year in terms of Spring Breakout. Part of that is like Drake Baldwin, their top prospect, is in Major League camp trying to win the opening day catching job outright, not just like a backup role. Sean Murphy's rib injury, Drake Baldwin's going for that starting job, so they don't want him playing in that game, which is understandable. But the Tigers are the Tigers. They're the number 1 farm system in baseball for a reason. Their top prospect's not named Jackson Jobe, are expected to be in this game. So that's really exciting. Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, Bryce Rayner, Tyrone Lorenzo, Josue Briseño, Hao-Yu Lee. I mean, it could be a really fun one there for Detroit. That should be, knock on wood, that everybody stays healthy until Sunday. But that could be the deepest spring breakout lineup that we see. So excited to see that one as well. But yeah, spring breakout just off to a rip-roaring start here. We'll cover more of the games next week. Hopefully we get more moments like this. This is going to be really, really hard to top. But who knows? Maybe somebody's got a 2-homer game in them, or maybe Jack Caglione's going to hit a 460-foot homer. Again, because of ABS and StatCast being a little bit more prevalent this year, I think that's only going to help us for spring breakout games. So keep an eye on MILB, MLB Pipeline, social channels, Instagram, X, the website in general, MLB.com, MILB.com, MLB.com/pipeline. There's going to be tons of spring breakout coverage coming towards you in the days to come. And this is exactly what we hope for, right? This puts a spotlight on minor league baseball, on the prospects who are going to be going to all 4 corners of this country, once the spring wraps up and the minor league season begins. So spring breakout, this is a super fun time of year. Like I said, I will be back in New York next week, so we will talk about this more. Then we'll have many more results to break down. But until then, enjoy your weekends, enjoy the rest of spring breakout, and this is really fun for me to say. Let's throw it to Josh Jackson with Ghosts of the Minors.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One tried to pitch deep into ball games. The others never even showed up. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball players did at one time exist. A. Bob Reisenhoover. B. Bob Eisenvelt. C. Bob Rosetaft. You've risen to the occasion and are ready to hoover up all the glory if you picked A. Bob Reisenhoover, who was a genuine leader on the bump over 6 minor league seasons in the 1950s and 60s. Born in Oklahoma in 1937, Reisenhoover was fairly presidential on the mound from the time he was a teenager, turning in one-hitters and other outstanding outings for Moore High School and debuting in the New York Penn League as a Cardinals prospect in 1958. Twirling for those NYPL Geneva Redlegs, Reisenhoover was riding high for him. The local press regularly described him as an ace, and he earned the accolades. A 6'2" southpaw, he started the circuit's All-Star game and was its only 20-game winner, swatting a home run himself to put an exclamation mark on victory number 20, and he also led the loop with 236 strikeouts and was second to Wellsville's Ed Banich with a 2.61 ERA. Banich had a 1.92 mark. Geneva was also second to Wellsville in the standings, but Geneva topped them 3-0 in the finals, putting a ring on the finger of our Bob Reisenhoover in his rookie season in the minors. He stayed well acquainted with that winning sensation throughout his career, even though he'd never again reach the 20 victories mark, nor prove as flat-out dominant in more advanced leagues. Reisenhover, who also served in the United States Marine Corps, moved up to the South Atlantic League for a couple seasons, then spent the rest of his career at the upper levels of the minors, appearing in dozens of games for the International League's Jersey City Jerseys and Pacific Coast League's San Diego Padres, as well as 8 for the Indianapolis Indians in the American Association. For those keeping score at home, that's 3 iconic Triple-A leagues for one man. By the end of the 1963 season, Reisenhover had pitched 829 innings as a pro, posting a 52-35 record and a 3.14 ERA. A married man, he had a career in carpentry ahead of him, as well as a life of cheering on Sooners football and working in his garden in his native Oklahoma, where he lived to the age of 75, passing away in 2012. And that's how Bob Reisenhover heaved his way into history. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams tried to harvest a real gem in the minors of yesteryear? A. The Durango Quartz Dippers. B. The Golden Diamond Grabbers. C. The Newport Pearl Diggers. Want to know the answer? Rock on. Or tune into the next Goes to the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is ready for Spring Breakout, and I've got to put him back in.
Well, saying goodbye on this week's episode of the show. Before the show, we are once more in a dude shutdown with no Sam Dykstra here for this week's episode of TSPTS. But Ben, do you have a dude? You want to just throw out a dude? Do we have a dude this week?
Throw a team to me, and I'll say the first player that comes to my mind.
Let's go with the Minnesota Twins.
So the Twins. All right, I'm going to go real obscure here. Mike Stenhouse, because when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with like players' birthdays and finding like Ron Romanick and John Candelario were born on my birthday, November 6th. Mike Stenhouse had my dad's birthday. And I just was such a baseball card obsessed little kid that this guy who barely played in the majors, I always remembered his name because he had the same birthday as my dad.
Mike Stenhouse. I would not have remembered him. I'm going to go with Bryn Smith, who pitched the first ever Major League Baseball game that I attended for my hometown team. Bryn Smith, who was one of those guys who like you look back on, and if you find a baseball card or a headshot or anything of Bryn Smith, you're like, oh, this is a Civil War veteran in his late 70s. He retired at 37, and just like I'm 2 years older than that now. If I look anything like the grizzled visage of Bryn Smith, I'm going to feel real dark about myself. But I'm sure, like, Bryn Smith nowadays, he's almost 70 years old. He probably looks the exact same as he did in 1993 when he pitched the home opener for the Colorado Rockies.
He pitched the home opener for the Colorado. Was he on the? He was on the Expos, right?
He was on the Expos for the vast majority of his career. Then spent 3 seasons with the Cardinals, and he finished his career with an 8.49 ERA in 11 games, 5 starts for the expansion year, the inaugural season, Colorado Rockies, his age 37 campaign in 1993. Not exactly the way you want to go out. But
no, Dale Murphy didn't want to go out that way either.
No, he sure didn't. Colorado Rockies legend Dale Murphy. Howard Johnson also in that category. Just like random guys who ended up on the Rockies at the end of their career. Bryn Smith, like that's kind of a cool thing. That guy's forever tied to my childhood memories because he was that guy on that day as one of the most formative sports experiences of my life. Which is pretty cool. Also, Howard Johnson apparently went on to play. He played 93 games for the Rockies in the strike-shortened season of 94. Then he played 87 games for the Cubs in 1995 and was somehow even worse than he was with the Rockies. But hey, 2-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, 3-time top 10 MVP finisher for old Hojo. So, it's another dude for Name That Dude. If Sam doesn't listen to this podcast, which I assume he doesn't, maybe we'll bring back Howard Johnson for a Name That Dude when Sam is aboard.
Yeah, I think we should do. I mean, I don't know. There's not many Howard Johnsons left either.
That is true.
So upset. I don't know if we want to go into
that is true. We don't really want to be
Howard Johnson either. No.
I bet there was a Howard Johnson in Palmer, Massachusetts at some point.
Sounds like a Hojo town.
Yeah, it seems like a Hojo kind of place. The closest one now seems to be located in what is this? Hadley, Mass, near Northampton there.
Yeah, that's where my mother-in-law lives, and my wife's family in general, Joe's family. Yeah.
I also, just as one final fact to throw out there about Palmer, Massachusetts, did not know that the legendary blues musician Taj Mahal grew up in Palmer, Massachusetts. Had no idea. Born in New York City, grew up, partially in Palmer, partially in Springfield. Very cool. Very cool stuff. That might be wrong. It's on Wikipedia, so it probably is. But Sam will give us the lowdown on that when he returns to the Show Before the Show podcast. If he returns from his friendlies-induced depression. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Our thanks to Sam, all of the work and the guests that he's been bringing in from the Grapefruit League. Our thanks, as always, to Rylee Pay as well. You can listen to her with the Tacoma Rainiers starting in 2.5 weeks as the Triple-A season gets underway. And for Benjamin Hill, Josh Jackson, Sam Dykstra, and all the rest, my name is Tyler Maughan, and we'll catch you next week.